All right, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webcast, Pen Testing Smart Contracts to Stop the Next Poly Network Hack. My name is Randall Jones. I'm the Offensive Operations Marketing Manager here at SANS, and I will be moderating today's webcast. Today's featured speakers are Stephen Walbroehl and Stephen Sims. Stephen Walbroehl is an industry expert and leader in penetration testing, web app and cloud security, infrastructure security, and IT compliance. His vast experience has spanned financial, insurance, mortgage, utilities, and hospitality industries. He is Chief Security Officer and co-founder of Halborn, specializing in cybersecurity for companies using blockchain technologies. And he's now brought this considerable experience to SANS, authoring the new course, Security 554, Blockchain and Smart Contract Security. And he's also co-author of a new course coming out, Security 556, IoT Penetration Testing. Presenting with Stephen today is our Offensive Operations Curriculum Lead, SANS Fellow Stephen Sims. You're probably familiar with Stephen. He's been teaching with SANS since 2006 and has authored several of SANS' most successful courses, including Security 501, Advanced Security Essentials, Security 599, Purple Team Tactics, and of course, our most advanced offensive courses, Security 660 and Security 760. He's also co-author of the very popular Gray Hat Hacking book series and is a prominent keynote speaker, presenting at several worldwide events every year. So let's see, if you have any questions during the webcast, please go ahead and enter them into the questions window at any time. We'll be monitoring that. Please note that our webcast is being recorded and will be available for viewing later on the SANS webcast registration page, as well as in your SANS account under My Webcasts. And with that, I'll turn it over to Steve and Steve.
Great, thanks, Randall. I appreciate the intro there, and thanks for joining us, everyone. I asked Steve Walbroehl to help put this together, actually to primarily put this together. You don't want me speaking about this topic for the whole time, or you won't learn too much. But quite, I would say, about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that, is when I met Steven, and he took 660, he took 760. He was a CTF winner on both of those courses, and has been a winner of the Net Wars Tournament of Champions and everything else. So just a brilliant individual and someone who really took an interest in the whole world of crypto and DeFi and blockchain and smart contracts and everything in that space. And it's just someone who I'm lucky to have on speed dial, so I can ask lots of dumb questions and get them answered. Um, to which I don't know how much I've been able to help other people, but I found myself now talking to other people as if I'm a bit of an expert on the space, and I have to like constantly check in with him and repeat what he's saying. So again, why you want him to speak and not me to speak the whole time. But there's been quite a few hacks recently, especially like the Poly Network hack, and there's been different rug pulls and just all kinds of scams in the DeFi space going on, and it's scary. It's you can see a lot of people making what seem to be great amounts of money, and a lot of people losing money, and of course just with the existing volatility of that space as well. Watching Bitcoin, a couple weeks ago down at 29,000 and back up at 50,000 yesterday. It's quite interesting. So the more you know about it, and also there's been a lot of different industries, different verticals utilizing blockchain technology. Everything from designer clothing brands to places like Genentech, who have their own blockchain implementation, and other biotech and pharmaceutical companies tracking controlled substances via blockchain. And it's just an amazing technology that's still, early on. I wouldn't say in its infancy maybe, but it's definitely something that's not going away. And with that, we at SANS wanted to be a bit ahead of the curve here and say, work with someone like Steve to put together a course on this topic, because there's nothing else out there that gets into the level that SEC 554 does. And so we're really excited about the course. I was lucky enough to sit the first beta, and I learned a ton of information. And I think just like cloud has become something that's so commonplace with technology and moving from on-prem into the cloud and having to know how to pen test and assess those environments, that same type of thing is going to be happening with more so with blockchain. So Steve, as Randall mentioned, is the co-founder of Halborn, who is a pen test firm that specializes in blockchain and fintech companies. And it's just brilliant stuff that they're doing. I know they have like a mini month waiting list right now because the space is just blowing up. So we thought it'd be a great idea to have a webcast, specifically starting to talk about the poly hack, and then we're going to cover some other things as well. So I'm just going to be asking a lot of questions and let the experts speak on this. So I'm going to start right off and say, what happened with the poly network hack? I know that you did a presentation recently and it's some great stuff, but like if you want to give a summary of that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the introduction, Steve. So Poly Network hack, it got a lot of media headlines. I mean, it's one of the, if not the biggest financially impacting hack in technology. I think I read some statistics where it was the second biggest heist of any heist ever. After number one was like a bank robbery like in Saudi Arabia during a war, but this was number two, and it was about $610 million that was stolen, and it was stolen out of these liquidity wallets. So I'll give a couple of non-technical details, just like overall about it and what happened, kind of this series of events. And then I'll go into the technical details right after that to say, really what happened inside of the blockchain while they were doing this hack. So $610 million was stolen from Poly Network, and what Poly Network actually is, it's a bridge that allows different blockchains to kind of transfer from one to another. If you visit their site here, you can see they call it the Realizing Blockchain Interoperability, Building the Next Generation Internet. So blockchain, everybody knows about Bitcoin and Ethereum. There's actually several different types of new ones that are different protocols, and they use different underlying programming languages, and they don't talk to each other very well. You can't transfer like Bitcoin to an Ethereum directly. So you have to use these things and concepts called bridges, and these bridges allow you to transfer from one place to another. So that's really what Poly Network is. To facilitate these bridges, what they actually have to do is use smart contracts and programming languages. Some of them are decentralized, some of them are centralized. And they had these liquidity wallets that facilitate the transferring of those. So they actually like hold it in these wallets until they make sure, yes, do the funds come from here? Okay, now we can send it there. And they allow this to go between like Binance and Tether and different types of protocols. So it's all done on decentralized. And what happened for this event was a hacker actually found a way to go and manipulate these bridges by adding himself into like a list of keepers, which we'll look at in a minute. But after he did this, they saw that on the blockchain instantly, all this funds being pulled out of these wallets that were on this bridge. They tried to blacklist the address from transferring the funds out there, and Tether, which is actually it's called a stable coin. A stable coin stays pegged to $1. Tether stopped the hack. Kind of in the middle, froze the coins. They completely stopped it, but they stopped him from being able to pull it out and cash in on what he has stolen. So right after he leveraged this vulnerability, which we'll go into in a minute, he actually started to return the funds because another company called Slowmist, which they were doing some forensics and trying to figure out the identity. They said they found out who the hacker was, and that's not quite true, which we'll see some interesting things that happen on the blockchain. So he started returning the funds, and this was mostly the funds that he took from the wallets, and he started sending messages to the crypto world and the media. You can actually see some of the messages in the blockchain. I'll copy some here. We can look at the links because it's quite interesting how you can see in blockchain somebody talking to people through encoded messages there. So if you see my screen here, this is a transaction, and on the blockchain, everything is on a ledger, so it stays on a ledger. You can always see it in history. You can see here this input data. You can decode it and start seeing the hacker like kind of send messages, to people during the hack. Like, no, this is doing an AMA almost live while he was hacking things. He started to give a warning to people. He even thanked the media on some of this one. So here they're saying like how security is very important for protecting the network. There's another transaction here. If we go down and look on Etherscan, you can see, we'll decode this one. To the media friends at CoinDesk, and thank you for refilling the popcorn every day. It was like watching a movie live. That's what's really interesting about this blockchain hacking is a lot of it. It's all public. Things happen almost instantly. So he was saying pretty much that he was doing all of this to send a message about the wild west of crypto and the crypto world, and he was also like sending thank yous to his friends. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because they said in the news that they identified who the hacker was, and we don't really know if that's true because a lot of this information here is truly anonymous unless you can leave your IP addresses or something. So he says that they don't know who I am. They're just they're just pretending here. I'm doing this for a message. So to my friends, thank you for information. I appreciate that some of you keep silence to save my time. Very dramatic. You can go on here and look at all the transactions that were made between him and the funds that he stole. We'll look at a couple of the functions he called, but really you can see he still has $33 million in his wallet right now out of the 610. So every few hours it looks like they're returning some of the funds, going to transferring things, and he's getting donations too and sending donations. So it's still ongoing. This is still happening right now. Maybe with some automation, but with this financial impact of $610 million, this happened like so quickly, and such large devastating attack by somebody who really found one vulnerability. And these vulnerabilities can be very obvious, or they can be very hard to find too. So that's really what happened. So the funds are still being returned. I think he's asking for donations right now for saving the blockchain or something.
Did he actually get a bounty? I saw that.
So I think actually there's one transaction where there's one where he's actually asking for a donation about this. Yeah, here it is. I'll get this one here. He's saying like he'll return all the funds. He was asking Tether, who caught it in time and froze the funds by blacklisting it. He asked for donations for that. I think it was this one here. So if we open it up and we view the input again as ASCII, yeah. So anyway, I will try to do something. Donations are accepted at this address. It will be the main source of funds. So that's what he's asking for, is donation for not doing things like touching shit coins, doing headstones, no dumping valuable assets. However, the Avengers have to face endless lawsuits with civilians. He's an idealist, or it's some particular character here. Gray hat, white hat. Well, Robin. So it's something that he's claims that he's going to be getting donations for, but the funds are still being returned right now. Of the 33 million, looks like he has currently.
I thought I saw something saying that he was going to get a $500,000 bounty from Poly Network.
Well, he did get a job offer apparently to be like a CISO at another company. I don't know whether he would accept that, or if they would even be able to afford how much he has right now, or it could just be a trap coming in there like, welcome to your job, and nope, here's the handcuffs. But yeah, it's kind of seeing what what the outcome will be here, because this is still in progress.
So
Cool.
what specific vulnerabilities were basically allowed them to steal the funds? Did you get into that? I'm sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about the technicals of how he actually did it, rather than the amounts. So I'm going to actually go to the GitHub of the Poly network, and we can look at some of this to analyze it. So I'm going to go here. Really, the root cause of what happened with the hack, it comes down to bad access controls on a set of smart contracts and allowing input, like user input into a high privilege method. So that's like the high level root cause. Looking into it, so okay, what contracts were actually at play? Which ones, what does role-based access control look like inside of smart contracts? So there's two particular ones that were at play that were really manipulated. One of them is this ETH CrossChain Data, and the other one that was manipulated was ETH CrossChain Manager. And we'll start with the CrossChain Data. What this contract is responsible to do is manage a list of public keys that are called keepers, and these are keys that control all of the funds inside of these wallets. So you have a bridge, you have a wallet that holds all the funds, and there's the keepers have their key identifies if they can, move the funds around. They could sell it, they could take it out, but it's really supposed to only be accessed by these keepers. Think of it like a privileged admin. So this list of keepers can be called and changed by a particular function that we could probably see here. It's put right here. Put cure public. Let me zoom in here in case it's big. Put cure epoch con pub keys list. So you can see here this stores the consensus book of keepers public keys. So really, it's like it's an array or a list of public keys that are added, and this function is very sensitive, of course, because it kind of like updates the privileged admins, and it's supposed to only be called by the owner of this chain manager or anybody identified as an owner. You can see this thing on the side here. This is called a modifier. So meaning that only an owner can call it when it's not paused. So these are kind of like attributes to functions. And when you have only owner, that means whoever is identified as the owner of that contract can call this function. Sometimes it's another contract actually, so it's not really a person. So the attacker saw that he could call a function and add his key to add it to this list of keepers. And the way he found that is actually quite interesting. So he or she looked at this ETH CrossChain Manager sold. This is the other contract that is another high privilege contract, and what this one does is it triggers messages from one chain to another in Poly network. So let's say you're on like Ethereum chain and there's another chain and you want to trigger something. Well, the ETH CrossChain Manager will do this on the Ethereum network, and anybody can. It's a public function, public contract. Anybody can call this and create this cross-chain event, because that's what facilitates people to do it. And there is actually one function here that you can see. It's verify header and execute TX. That it specifies the target function on the chain, for that data. So think of it as like an API. You have an API, and that's the contract, and you're calling a specific method in the API to point to which function you want to execute. So this is where that user input root cause started. This verify header and execute transaction, go down and look at it, you'll find there is a specific, let me just search for it here, method right here. So execute CrossChain Transaction. Yeah, so there's a method. This is the magic function that caused the vulnerability from this manager here. So what it is, execute CrossChain Transaction allowed the hacker to control which function he wanted to update, which is actually the one from the data for adding his key to that list. And this function for adding the key to the list is only executed by this particular CrossChain Manager. And when you control this pointer, you can tell it to call that function. So how do you control this pointer? This is the very creative part, and I haven't really ever seen this before in any other hack. He was doing it by brute forcing a method that matched that one previous. If we look here, this put cure pub key con. So every one of these functions has what's called it's a 32-bit ID. And if you could find a matching hex to this function by calculating the hexadecimal bits, then you can kind of like control and target which function you want it to point to. So this is what the hacker did. He pretty much took random bytes and started hashing them. Actually, I could show you right now what the hashes look like when you create this, and the one that he used. He found one that matched this function and input it into this method to control and add his key as input data. So let me switch over here really quick. I'll illustrate the example. So you see here, I'll go onto my console right now. So up here, there's a utility that you could see that it causes, it creates hex data. It could be a string, it could be anything. This is like a hex data. It could be sans, and all this translates into pretty much a hexadecimal. It should be pretty familiar if in pen testing. So the hacker actually used this way to encode it, and he found this function here, and I'll type it out. All right, copy is here. So, and I'll show you in a bit what this actually means and how it matches the function that here. So, if you look, this is an ID. This is the method ID of the function that allowed him to input his own public key. So he or she was able to find that adding this bit of strings here matched the same output that could be used for the put cure epoch con pub key bytes. So now you pretty much had control to add his key to this function as the privilege of the owner, and now he's on that list. So really, once he figured that out, he was granted the status of the keeper, added his public key to that list by targeting that function, and then once he was there, now he had control of the wallet with all the funds, and he was able to siphon out all of the things from that bridge wallet, which was Binance, Ethereum, Neo, Tether, and it all together added up to $610 million. So kind of like a layered attack. Back to the root causes again. It was several things. It was the access controls being not correct with the manager and the data contracts, and being able to control that input to target the correct function.
Wow, yeah, it's a lot of.
Yeah.
I guess a two-part question: how common or how often does this sort of thing happen in the DeFi space? And also, like, what would you rate this vulnerability? Like, if you were doing an audit, is this something that's pretty difficult to find, like on a 10 scale, or is it something that's kind of average? You see it often?
Man, so first of all, stealing funds from bridges is like the new SQL injection for blockchain. These bridges, it's so new and it's so vulnerable right now because there's no standard way to do it. There's centralized bridges, there's decentralized. So I always see vulnerabilities in these bridges right now. And then the leveraging of the bad access control, absolutely, that's probably one of the main vulnerabilities we find on most audits is just either overly permissive contracts or roles that are a single person that has control of everything. Like I'm the only owner and I can withdraw the liquidity. That's actually what a rug pull is like the admins or the team of the developers, they have the only owner key to the big pool of money there, and then all of a sudden like they just take it out and disappear. So that's all the time, and there's a way to balance that with decentralization and using governance. But the method ID of kind of brute forcing that hexadecimal, that one is I've only seen that one time before, and that was from an audit, not really used in the real world for a hack of this value. Usually, what he really did was found a way to bypass that key that you needed to sign it. You didn't need to steal a private key for this. You were able to leverage the privileges of that manager contract by forcing the target function. So that one was completely new to me.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like, organizations writing their own cryptographic implementation and doing it in-house and just hoping things work out right and not actually having it tested properly and everything. So
Yeah, exactly.
I guess, I mean, so you answered part of this already, but how would you or a developer or a company protect something like this from happening or prevent something like this from happening again?
Yeah, so there's
Besides access control.
yeah, there's a few things that could have been done to prevent this from happening. I mean, any one of any one of those steps in the series would have allowed it to, or not allowed him to steal those funds. The access control between these contracts, when you set up these modifiers on here, if we like look at these managers here, you can see there's interfaces, there's logic. There's a lock proxy. The lock proxy will probably have different constructors here that will add, here's a only manager contract, function set manager proxy. These are all different, it's defined as a constructor as who the owners are. So when you have correct access controls, so that contracts that inappropriately call other contracts, controlling that will just protect it. The other thing is address whitelisting. If you do have to do this, you can actually add particular addresses or contract addresses in there to block other people from calling it. And then obviously auditing. The thing with audits is everybody in the blockchain space, you can see it. It's always like prices are going up and then prices are going down, and when prices are going up, everybody wants their contract audited really fast so they can jump in on the bull run, and then auditors get rushed to get it done. And really, this stuff is, I mean, you see it. This is complicated stuff. We need time to take a look at it, understand how it works, think of all the angles that could be done, because really once it's on the blockchain, there's no it's very hard to patch it. It happens so fast. So giving time for audits and working with the developers and the security teams together is another thing to help prevent this kind of stuff from happening.
Yeah, one of the things when people ask me questions as if I'm the expert, they would say, a common question though is like, if I go on PancakeSwap or something like that and I see some DeFi, some new coin coming out, and I saw some social media person advertising it, or and you want to get in early, I mean, and they want to know if it's a safe one. I mean, I don't. That's one I don't know what to tell them on that one. I mean, you see some of these coins or whatever that are a fraction of a penny, and then they shoot up to 5 cents and then back down to nothing again, and then you worry about exit scams or rug pulls.
Yeah, it's really interesting that it's really hard to judge what is safe. You have to use your own intuition, because the all these tokens that you see that are sub 1 penny, besides the whole supply demand economics of it, if you can read this code, you can go look at the smart contracts of these, and you can audit it yourself and be like, oh, I see emergency withdrawal all funds to one address. Okay, I wonder what's going to happen later on. It's kind of sometimes you can see these things, but there's a lot of copycat contracts and copycat tokens that come out that will almost scam people into investing in them. So like Dogecoin comes out, and then Baby Doge 2 comes out, and then it's just a clone, and they're pulling people into these chat rooms and Telegram groups, and pumping it all up, and people now, because there's no regulation really on the DeFi listing world, like Uniswap and these other platforms, they'll make fake tokens on there that the names are the same, and they'll trick people to going into there and putting their money in the wrong token, even the ones that that your friends are telling you about. It's like, okay, this one's called Baby Doge, also it must be the right one, and it's not. It's just called that because you can have the same name for these things. So there's a lot of creative ways to socially engineer people into investing and stealing your money this way, just based on hype speculation, and riding the rocket to the moon.
What's the most common language somebody should get familiar with all this?
So in the Ethereum world, which is obviously the leader in this whole space, Solidity is the programming language of this. In the SEC 554, that's the primary language that you learn how to there's no coding in there, but you learn all the different structures and about the language, how it works, and then the tools written to audit that and test that. So Solidity would be the number one. A lot of the new protocols coming out, they use Rust and Golang. They use Haskell, Substrate, Tendermint protocols. There's a lot of brand new languages, but starting with Solidity is the most important one, and that's the one that we teach. That's the one that you saw in these Poly network hacks here.
Yeah, certainly. So I guess since we're moving into more of a general discussion, one question might be like, what makes blockchain, smart contract security, and associated technology unique from the rest of cybersecurity?
Wow, there's a lot of things that make it unique for sure. If I had to say the top things for making it unique is just how quickly this space just changes and how quickly things evolve and how quickly the damage can happen from these vulnerabilities. I mean, when you look at coming from a traditional pen test background, security background like yourself, you'll go to phish somebody, they click on an email, and then you get a shell. Okay, cool, I got a foot in the door. Now escalate privilege, move laterally, get behind the DMZ to the PCI zone, and now you can extract credit cards out. Like, cool, I got like a database of credit cards, and now I'm gonna go on the dark net and sell those for like $10 pop. Like, damn, wow, I made a couple $1,000s. You actually don't really make much. You get the companies get hurt more from the regulation and the compliance now, like issues that they have to do for suffering this loss and reputational damage. So that's one way like that, black hats will pull this stuff out. But now in blockchain world, you have $660 million that is there, and it's a couple lines of code that you can just, if you know how to do it, crafty enough, execute an exploit, and now the funds are yours within 15 seconds is block time for that stuff. So that's what I mean by quick and how quick impacts can happen. It's pretty crazy, and it's all anonymous because DeFi, if you know how to kind of cover your tracks on the blockchain and do things like Monero, which we talk about Monero in the course too, and that's one way of like a privacy coin. If you know how to hide your identities and not go through centralized things, and yeah, you can get away with a lot of this stuff too. So the cybercrime here is sometimes they say it's wild, wild west, and it's true. Code auditing becomes so important because the impacts are real, and that's a lot of pressure for auditors as well, because we know if we miss something that is not protected or something that's vulnerable and it kind of slips through the cracks, and then the team of developers deploy it, they get hacked and lose millions of dollars. Like, we share the blame on that. So, we have to really always, be very educated and be always on our toes for it. So the constant learning, constant innovation, always being one step ahead is like accelerated in blockchain and smart contract security.
Yeah, and I imagine the volatility and then, like you said, the significant impact when there is a hack and how quickly it happens is one of the reasons why more traditional investors and such get spooked so quickly and are scared to kind of go with this market. Still young.
For sure. Yeah, the reputation is bad. Like, that's why security is paramount, especially in this. Without security, honestly, this would nobody would really use it because everybody just be losing their money all the time.
Yeah, I don't think there's nearly enough people who specialize in the space either. So, do you see these types of vulnerabilities? I guess like the one in the poly hack when you're doing your auditing of contracts.
Yeah. So yeah, I mentioned a bit about the access control issues that we always see about who's owning it. If you see one address that's like a signer, like think if you have like your account, one account that can access everything. That's not very decentralized in a way. It's like, again, you're centralizing all the control with one person. So there's a balance that has to be met right now, and the opposite of that is having full decentralization and governance like a DAO. So I'll give you examples. One is like Uniswap. If you wanted to upgrade the protocol or upgrade a token or any of these like truly decentralized platforms, these tokens that you get are actually governance tokens. You're buying them on an exchange, but they're actually used to add voting power. Think of them like shares of stock for a company. You get more control. So you add governance to it, and people vote on upgrades to the network and vote on new functionality or vote on things. So that's a decentralized way of doing it. If something's getting hacked and they need to like halt or stop a network on a decentralized chain, they would all vote to say, oh yeah, we pause the network or shut down. All the validators would halt it. So that's more decentralized, but it's a lot harder to coordinate. And a lot of these developers and protocols, they're a little bit paranoid and they want to keep some control still. So they're finding a balance between that governance of letting it go to the community versus keeping the key to themselves to be able to react fast. So finding that the vulnerabilities we find are always in bad governance or bad administration. And there's tools out there like Halborn. For us, we're making a solution to help address this, to find the balance of trust versus that using multi-signature technology. So that's something that we're developing right now. But I do understand both sides of it. It does need some training wheels, because if you just put it out there, on the mainnet and let governance take control, there's ways to hack the governance too. With flash loans, you can borrow like more tokens to get 51% of the votes, and now you can vote to upgrade the contract where you control it. So there's other like ways to find vulnerabilities in all of this. But yeah, we see them a lot. But polynetwork is very unique in the way they cascaded that together with the input injection, I guess you could kind of say.
Yeah. Well, what are some other types of vulnerabilities besides that one that you commonly find, stuff like reentrancy and such?
Yeah. Reentrancy is one that it's like the 2017 type of code flaws that you'll see. So it's like the OWASP top 10 of Solidity and blockchains and smart contracts. There's a couple new terminologies like reentrancy attacks and integer overflows, bad initialization. Those are all like code flaws. So those are the type of vulnerabilities you'll see often, things like AppSec vulnerabilities. And then there's economic or environmental type of vulnerabilities, which are almost impossible to test for. They're very, very hard to find because they depend on the state of the blockchain environment. An example of that is something like a flash loan. And a flash loan is a way to lend funds, and then the funds are actually given to you to use without any collateral, like borrowing free money, and then you pay it back. But you can actually borrow that money to use to manipulate prices of things on chain. Think of it like if I borrow a bunch of money and then I trade it for some coin, now the price of that coin goes way up, and the other exchange hasn't seen that price go up there, then you like swap it and buy it, and then you got it cheap, give the flash loan back, and then sell it back more expensive. It's like using arbitrage. You can't really test for those things unless you have a good environment or you run like some.
Was that what happened with Kraken with Polkadot, when like it just dropped from like 40 down to like $10 and then shot back up instantly and like washed everybody out?
That's actually the centralized version of the flash loan. So this is in the DeFi space. That's borrowing it. What you probably saw, and I know what you're talking about. That was like in February or March or something, and that was a liquidation event of just people trying to force margin calls. So the over leveraged people where they crash the price, and then your margin is just like your over leveraged people will get margin called, and then they say, oh well, you're in too danger to lose all your money, so we need to get our money back, and then they kind of cash you out, and then you're left with nothing because the price just jumps back up. Yeah, that's much more evil because that's manipulation, whereas these flash loans, you're just using the functions of that are coded into the contracts in the code as well. But there's a lot of economic attacks that are coming out that are very different. One of the things that we're doing at Hellborn actually is trying to come up with the new like OWASP top 10. I can show a preview really quick to see, because this fun world of DeFi, we get to kind of pioneer new things all the time. Excuse my Bing, I don't want to see that. No, so this is actually something that we're putting together, which are like financial threat categories. And you could see like reentrancy attack of the code ones. This is liquidity-based threats, lending-based threats, Oracle-based threats, and governance. So about voting. These are different categories that, as we see hacks happening in the wild, or we see different, I guess, patterns emerging. Different types of attacks can be categorized into like a certain pattern or certain function. And this is all in progress, trying to build like an OWASP top 10 for DeFi. So it's a methodology right now that we're trying to get this framework put together, and you can see some of these attacks like solvency. Some are based on the access control, like we just went through. Very simple, like losing the private key. But then there's some much more ones that are a little harder to understand, like governance model exploitation. So been doing some analysis on how these attacks are done, and I think within some months we'll be able to publish some findings and organize this, so now we can create a testing methodology with all of this.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you have any more code examples or anything, or?
Coding, yeah. What's pretty cool is you can see a lot of these exchanges going on here. So we go down to the bottom. Is this enough code for you? Because what's interesting about this though is there's code examples, but when you're testing financial hacks, you're actually running like risk models like banks do on how much insurance should I lend out before like their credit score is too high or too low. How much should I give a loan for where it becomes too risky? So you're running these things like Monte Carlo methods and profit loss calculations, and you're taking different inputs of like how much can I borrow from here, and how much money is available in this contract, and how much time do I have in order to swap from one thing to another. This stuff goes on in banking, but this happens like stock market goes off, overnight they have time to crunch numbers and figure things out. This is all done like in atomic sequences, which are like 15-second blocks. And I didn't write all this stuff. I'm not that smart. This is from like PhD white papers and stuff, but just trying to find things that make sense for what to do.
Nice. I guess different kind of question, but like from a career impact perspective, I guess a lot of people that we come across with teaching or with just peering at conferences and everything, how would you say it is working in the blockchain and smart contract space in comparison to traditional? I imagine you have to be like very very hungry, or what's the word I'm looking for? I guess you need to really want it. It's not something we can sit
you want like learning. You have to be self-motivated.
Yeah, exactly. Innovation.
Yeah, no, that's certainly actually for Halborn, because our biggest thing is hiring people. We're always looking for talent and people that are interested in this, and even more important than knowing how to code Solidity is the ability to learn things fast and the desire to learn. So me, by being part of SANS and all the courses I took with you, and I did 760, and I was addicted to it. I couldn't stop it. Like, when's 860? Can you make this now? It's that kind of attitude needs to be really like nourished for this, because I feel like once you learn something, like the next thing is already like the new hotness, and it's like, oh crap, I learned this language, now I gotta learn another language, like, oh, another protocol, another bridge. It's just so fast, so you're always learning. And that combined with like the turnaround that clients expect because of how quickly things are evolving and going out there, it's you have to maintain agility, understand just like concepts that are common throughout all of them, so you can kind of maintain like a clear focus, and you have to be creative too, because creativity is a big part of this. Like the DeFi framework I showed you, we don't have much reference material except like SEC 554 and some of the stuff you see on Web3 website, or Consensus. There's not too much to go off of for this, so you have to apply security principles to this, and think creatively, like how can this be broken, and that's really, to me, is extremely fun. Another thing too is working in cybersecurity for blockchain. There's a community of openness that I haven't seen anywhere else. You look at like the GitHub, you can see all the code, it's transparent. The blockchain is a public ledger. You can see all the transactions, and that actually you actually see that in the people too when you're starting to work with them. There's a lot of knowledge sharing. People make tools, and they're not trying to like sell the tools. They're like open source and free to share. And when we work with clients, the clients give us the code, and like we have a direct communication with them on like a Slack or a Telegram to be like, hey, I'm trying to debug this. I think I found like a rug pull function here. It's like, oops, I didn't mean to leave that in here. Let me change it. You commit, go ahead. Like, okay, sure. So but that openness and communication and transparency helps. It's like a very, very cool, energetic, passion that the auditors and developers kind of share, for the most part. And then the last thing about what it's like working in blockchain is a lot of pressure because there's so much at stake. For this, imagine like this Poly network hack. If you were the auditor of that, you'd be like, "What did I do? Like I can't believe I missed this." Because it's just so it's hard to hide that. It's not like that Target got hacked or whatever, and there's stuff that got changed. Like who did that? It's like I don't know, some company that works at that company that is an engineer. You don't really know this stuff. We're publicly tied to that. Often the auditors are marketed on who did these contracts too. So it's kind of like a blessing and a curse because our work gets to be marketed and oh, look at my Pentest report, how cool it is. But then it's also, oh, but you missed that. And now they're hacked, so it's all your fault. But,
yeah, you got to be worried about the rogue engineer who discovers something and says, I might be able to make a killing if I don't tell anyone and exploit this function. So.
I don't give my guys any ideas. No, we actually do. We at Halborn, we do a lot of we're setting up this pool of vulnerabilities. So it's like an internal bug bounty, to incentivize finding these things too. And everything when we do find 0 days, even if they're like not within Halborn, all that stuff goes back to the engineers here too. So we make sure that everybody is rewarded because we want our employees that we have are like the most valuable. They are our assets, and we value them and make sure that they stay happy, and they're always like learning and more. And I think to me, it's I feel like I get to be with all my best friends and hacking all this stuff too. So I think the culture that we create in this stuff is just like what we expect from blockchain, open and transparent, fun, and very fast.
Yeah, that's cool. This is I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I know other people probably are wanting to ask it, which is, do you see the space slowing down at all or just continuing to grow and increase demand? I mean, from what I've seen from the peers I talked to out here in Silicon Valley area, it's not going away.
It's not, and I think there's a lot of things that are not so public that are happening. I mean, we at Halborn, we have a wait list for like 3 or 4 months of people just waiting for security audits, and that's why I mentioned before, hiring is more important than like getting business, because the business is there, and it's not just in these like coins or tokens. There's large enterprises that are getting into this because they see the value. I mean, like NFTs, for example. You look at NFTs, you think of like, oh, great, you're like selling overpriced JPEGs and stuff, but it's more than that. It's more, it's about finding authenticity and provenance, and you can use this for like supply chain. Like Louis Vuitton is a great example of using NFTs to make their items, have a private key to prove that it's the real thing and not a fraud item. So there's so many things that are happening at large institutions that have real world use case for it, and smart contracts are all behind that, and blockchain as well. So it's not going away.
Yeah, and we've always seen the issue around the lack of understanding around cryptography in general. So people just getting into the space make easy, simple mistakes. Same thing with people going onto the darknet and such to just kind of take a look around. It's like so easy to make a simple little mistake from an OPSEC perspective, and it's fascinating.
Absolutely.
I guess so. I got one more question, and then anyone who is listening, if you have questions for Steven especially, go ahead and post them up in the chat, and we'll get to them right after this last question here. But definitely do so. You've got an expert to talk to. But my last question is, how would someone learn how to do things like hacking smart contracts and approaching blockchain in general? Those both who can afford to do training and maybe those who cannot.
Yeah, sure. Structured formal training like with SANS is the best because you get to interact, go through the tools and learn methodologies for it. But the best way to learn it, besides taking a course like that, is to really first study all the hacks that are happening, or the security incidents, or even the security defenses. Some of the tools that are out there that help audit and protect these different smart contracts and the different protocols. Just read through the code, understand it, and learn Solidity, that first language. If you want to move to other protocols, you can learn Rust or Golang. But when you learn the foundations of the languages and the ways the smart contracts work, then you'll see patterns that are often used. Think of like templates. There can be ones like the governance type template, the liquidity template, the NFTs templates, the wallets, and what you'll start to see these foundational constructs, and then it'll start to all make sense about oh, now you see how smart contract works and why how DeFi plays a role in all of this. So I would say learn Solidity, study the hacks, all these pen test reports that we do and others do, like Trail of Biz and Opens Up, when they're all public to read through, and you can learn the types of vulnerabilities that they found and the criticality and what they cause. And then after that, practice the tools and try to do it yourself. Most of these tools are open source. We use them in the class, but some of the good ones are things like Slither, Mithril, and Ganache is like a private, think of it as like a test environment. You can deploy your own private blockchain and start hacking contracts that you have.
Yeah, I remember that one. It was super cool.
Yeah.
So one question came up here, and I know I'm going to answer it, but then I'll let you answer it better, which is, does Halborn do R&D and zero-day hunting? Yes, so I'll let you answer more.
Yes. Yeah, we sometimes we don't hunt for it. They just fall in our lap. I can't say too much about it, but recently we did see a very large zero-day that it impacted one of our clients, and I looked at it, I was like, wow, that's pretty bad. Have you tried this, this client's version of it too? And we tested, yeah, it's vulnerable there. And we tested out, oh, it's vulnerable there. And it ended up being just like this massive zero-day that impacts a certain library. We're like, holy crap, that was bigger. So yeah, we kind of hunted for it, but it came to us from a smaller and ended up getting bigger. Right now, there's so much I would say external client demand that we're trying to make positions and also time for everybody here to work on tool development and R&D. There's so many ideas that we have to increase the security space and the reputation, creating multi-signature solutions to defend contracts, and we're working on the operating system that's kind of like the Kali Linux for blockchain testing. So all of those things are things that we do at Hellborn too. And we also sometimes do incident response for our clients. So if they're getting hacked, even though we're not really blue team, of course, we come in to start doing forensics and trying to find out what went wrong and how to recover from that.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. One question is Sec 554 the first step to working at Hellborn?
Well, so I'll tell you the Halborn's hiring process. It is we do have a high bar. We get a lot of applications, and we have a CTF that's actually a smart contract hack, and we ask applicants to take that CTF, make a pen test report, and submit it, and then we evaluate it. Having taken SEC 554 will be a huge I guess cheat code to the CTF because it's using the tools and the methodologies that you would require to take that CTF. So that you can consider it a way to facilitate that if you're new to getting a job there. If you already know how to do smart contract hacking, or you're a very great independent learner, then you do this, send in the report, and then after that, I would say almost 90% of the people that we've hired come in not knowing how to do blockchain security, but they have the passion, desire, and the ability to learn quickly enough and kind of wrap their head around the way blockchain works. And that's more, as I mentioned before, the most important is the desire, the passion to always want to be in an environment that is challenging. If you like to constantly increase your skills and learn new things that really not too many people know, and be able to like change priorities all the time and kind of like hit the ground running on like, hey, here's a brand new language that nobody's ever audited before with really no security controls ever like mentioned, and go, it's due tomorrow. So yeah, it's definitely fun, and if I would say creative minds will really thrive in an environment like what we have.
Yeah. Another question is, if DeFi is regulated, the security, do you think the security on that will change?
I think that the DeFi being regulated will cause issues for a lot of the developers of the protocols that are more publicly known, because they have different requirements for like financial obligations, and they have to report like securities. But a lot of DeFi is anonymous. So on like, let's say an investor side or a user side, there's no really KYC on these platforms like you would on Coinbase or Kraken or some of these other centralized exchanges. Really, I mean, you can go straight. I mean, I'll show you right now. If you've never used DeFi before, connecting to a platform doesn't require any like registration to start trading. You just go to something like, I mentioned Uniswap. Go to Uniswap, and if you want, to start trading protocols, all you do is go to the website. You have an application like called MetaMask or another one. You connect your wallet. Use this. I'm on like a test network here for it, and there you go. I can start, swapping tokens and spending money on it. There's no ID for it. All you need is a private key and a public key. So I did see government I guess mandates about disclosing like every new private key that you generate. That would honestly be very, very hard to enforce and detect and reverse engineer who's who, just knowing the mathematics behind it all. So I think some parts of it will change security. On the exchange sides that are using DeFi and different consensus, they may have reporting requirements, but the user side, I think that a lot of the compliance and the regulation for who you're interacting with may be better, because there'll be a lot more trust in, like, think of like the verified contracts that are put out there rather than the scammy ones. So there's some good and bad parts with regulation, I think, that are coming up, and have been proposed.
Great. I think there's only one question left, which is a pretty funny one. I don't know how you want to answer it, but is Doge still a good investment?
Oh man. All right, so are you talking short-term investment or a long-term investment? So, all right, so I have to say that I think today's economy, like the market economy, is less about technicals and more about like hype and momentum. So as a pure momentum play, Doge can be a fantastic investment for like a day. If you're like, seeing an Elon Musk tweet and all of a sudden like the billion people on Twitter like go pump, and you see it start to go up, like, yeah, hop on it, and then just don't be the last one to get off of it. But long term, Dogecoin is actually opposite of Bitcoin, where if you take SEC 554, the first day we go into what it's like to create Bitcoins and the mining process, it's a deflationary asset. So there's less and less of them being produced over time until the maximum amount reaches, which is 21 million. Dogecoin, I believe there's 10,000 Doges made per 10 minutes or per minute. So the supply side of it is just, becoming like excessively high. I mean, in the billions, eventually trillions, because of how many there are. And so if you know anything about basic economics, supply and demand, obviously, value will go down, which is why it's so cheap right now. So long term, I say not a good investment, but that's not financial advice. Short term, depends on the momentum, and that's something that, if you're active trader, it could be good, could be bad.
Yeah, it's a good answer. Cool. Well, thank you very much. I think that's really, really great stuff. And I don't see any other questions. And appreciate everyone taking the time, especially Steve, for walking us through all this. And we will hopefully see you at Sec 554, or maybe future employees of Halborn.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All
Always
right.
message me at Halborn Steve on Twitter. That's probably the one social media I do use. If you have any questions or about anything we talked about today, or if you want to ask a question about Halborn or the class, I'm there to answer. I'll definitely get back to you as soon as I can once I check my phone.
Great.
All right. Well, yes. Thank you guys for the cool conversation. Very new topic to security, and bringing this content to the SANS community is obviously very cool. I'll also mention as well that you can jump onto the SANS Offensive Ops Discord, where you can find both Steve and Steve there to ask them questions about blockchain and smart contract security. To our audience, we greatly appreciate you listening in. Thank you very much for your time as well. For a schedule of all upcoming and on-demand SANS webcasts, please visit sans.org/webcast. And until next time, take care, and we hope to have you again for another webcast. Thanks all. Bye for now.